Bohr's model of an atom. Bohr's atomic model or Bohr's model of an atom. So this Bohr's model of an atom is applicable to a single electron system. It is applicable only for a single electron system. That is for hydrogen and hydrogen-like ions. Very, very important. Bohr's model of an atom is applicable only for a single electron system. Only for a single electron system. That is for hydrogen, because hydrogen contains 1s1, only one electron, electronic configuration, and hydrogen-like ions. What are those hydrogen-like ions? Having only one electron system, and that is hydrogen. After that, helium, He plus. Helium has 2, He plus has only one electron. Li, lithium has 3 electrons, but Li plus 2, only one electron. Be, beryllium has 4 electrons, but plus 3, only one electron. Like this, all these have single electrons. That means hydrogen or all these things having only a one electron system. So for all these cases, Bohr's atomic model is applicable. Next, this Bohr's atomic model is based on first one, Planck's quantum theory. Bohr's atomic model is based on Planck's quantum theory, and the second one, Rutherford's model, and Rutherford's model of atom. By taking some important points from Rutherford's atomic model, he upgraded his atomic model. He upgraded its atomic model. Okay, so these are the basics for this model of atom, and is applicable only for a single electron system. Applicable only for a single electron system. Now, what are the important postulates of this Bohr's atomic theory? So this is important towards your subjective side, that is intermediate side, important postulates. What are those important postulates? So see here, the postulates in Bohr's atomic theory. First one, atom has a nucleus. My dear boys, this nucleus is from Rutherford's period. That is why it is based on Rutherford's period. The term nucleus is collected from Rutherford's period. Atom has a nucleus which is at its center. Atom has a nucleus which is at its center. So the total, this statement is collecting from Rutherford's period. Next one. Second point. Okay. Electrons revolve. Electrons revolve around the nucleus. Around the nucleus in a closed circular path. These circular paths are introduced by Bohr. Bohr introduced circular paths, but in previous atomic model, that is Rutherford's theory, that is elliptical orbits as planets revolve around the sun. So here, those are violated. Here, circular orbits, circular paths are introduced. These circular paths are called as orbits or shells. Now, this nucleus contains total positive charge. That is, total positive charge is at nucleus. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus in a closed circular path. These paths are called as orbits or shells. Orbits or shells. These orbits are numbered as n, indicated with the letter n. N has values from 1, 2, 3, etc. up to infinity. These shells are numbered as, indicated as K, L, M, etc. K shell means the first shell, first orbit. L shell means the second orbit. M shell means the third orbit. So this is from nucleus. These are from nucleus. These are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4 infinity or KLM, etc. These are from the nucleus, starting from the nucleus. Okay, next one. Fourth point, third point. What is that? When electron revolve in a particular orbit, when electron revolve in a particular orbit, each neither lost energy nor gain energy. That is, its energy is constant. Its energy is constant. That means as long as the electron revolves around the nucleus in a particular orbit, it neither loses energy nor gains energy. That means energy is always constant. Why, sir? Why this process is taken? In Rutherford theory, according to our classical concepts, as long as the electron revolves around a particular orbit and a charged particle revolves around a particular orbit, it continuously loses energy, and attraction between nucleus and the electron is automatically increases because less energy. So, and finally fell down into the nucleus, that finally atom is going to collapse. So why it is not happened? That is not explained by Rutherford period. There is a failure of Rutherford period. To overcome that failure, he introduced these energy constant. That is why these states are called as, these are called as. So these are called as, these orbits or shells are called as stationary states or shells. Energy neither be lost nor gained. That means energy is always constant. So the term stationary states are introduced by Bohr to overcome that drawback in Rutherford period. As long as the electron revolves in a particular orbit around the nucleus, it neither loses energy nor gain energy. So continuously velocity is taken as constant. Okay, so that is a very, very important. Based on, by taking this stationary state, he overcomes why that electron not fall down into the nucleus, why that atom is not collapsed. So he overcome by introducing these stationary states. Next point. What is that? In those stationary states, in these stationary states, the force of attraction towards the nucleus, that is towards nucleus, the force of attraction of electron towards the nucleus, which is either Coulombic, that is Coulombic, or electrostatic. Coulombic or electrostatic between the nucleus and electron is equal to centrifugal force away from the atom. It is away from the atom. in the tangential direction, away from the atom. It is very, very important. That means, in this case, centripetal force is equal to centrifugal force. Centripetal force is equal to centrifugal force. So this Coulombic or electrostatic force of attraction is called as centripetal force, which is equal to away from the nucleus, away from the atom, that is centrifugal force. This should be balanced. Whenever electron revolve in a particular orbit, this statement should work. You should completely acceptable conditions. This should be the acceptable condition. So these are very, very important points towards your Bose theory. Your Bose theory. Okay. Next point. What is that? That is, so as long as the electron revolves around the nucleus, it neither lose energy nor gain energy. But if electron jumps from one orbit to other orbit, that is from lower orbit to higher orbit, lower orbit to higher orbit, it gains energy. From lower orbit to higher orbit, it gains energy. And higher to lower, it loses energy. From higher to lower, it loses energy. That means there should be energy losing or gaining takes place when electron jumping from one orbit to another orbit, lower orbit to higher orbit. When electron jumping from lower orbit to higher orbit, there may be lower to higher means, for example, see here. See here. This is the nucleus of atom. These are the different orbits which are in circular motion. So these are numbered as n is equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay. So as n value increases, energy also increases. How is this? I will explain later. As n value increases, energy is increased. This is higher orbit. These are the lower orbits. When electron jumping from lower orbit to higher orbit, for example, it is 20 kilojoules of energy. This one has 10 kilojoules of energy. Lower to higher, it gains energy. So when electron jumping, revolving around second orbit, in a particular second orbit, it has 10 energy. If it is in third orbit, it should be 20. That means something energy should be released. Gain energy. That gain energy is the difference of those two energies. That gain energy is the difference of those two energies. Energy of third orbit minus energy of second orbit, which is equal to 20 minus 10, that is 10. This much value is gain. That much value is gain. Similarly, if electron jumping from third to second, automatically that 10 kilojoules of energy will be lost. That means that losing or gaining of energy is the difference of those two orbits, and energy difference of those two orbits. Energy difference of those two orbits loses energy. So that losing or gaining energy, the losing or gaining energy is the difference of those two energy levels. Is the difference of the change in energy. Therefore, the change in energy, that is delta E, is equal to E higher value minus E lower value, lower energy. So E higher energy minus E lower energy. Therefore, delta E is equal to, in simple, E2 minus E1. Delta E is equal to E2 minus E1. We know delta E is equal to H in nu. E is equal to H in nu. It is Planck's quantum theory. It is Planck's quantum theory. That means Planck's quantum theory also used by this Bohr. That's why by using Planck's quantum theory, automatically that is Rutherford theory, he developed his atomic model. So basis for that one. Okay, so see here, so delta E is equal to H nu. Delta E is equal to H nu. So already we know that nu is equal to delta E by H. Nu is equal to delta E by H. It is the frequency of orbit, frequency of that orbit. So this is called as Bohr's. This is called as Bohr's frequency rule, and this is taken as Bohr's frequency rule. That is equal to, from that means nu is equal to delta E minus E2 minus E1 by H. This is called as Bohr's frequency rule. It is from Planck's quantum theory. It is from Planck's quantum theory. That is why it is the basis for Planck's quantum theory is the basis for this Bohr's atomic model. Bohr's atomic model. So that is why. So before going to take Bohr's atomic model, that is why I am going to explain. I already explained that Planck's quantum theory, some developments towards in between those two points. So see here once again, when electron jumps from lower orbit to higher orbit, so low energy to high energy, so that means so gains energy. That much high energy should be gained. How much energy is the gain? That is the difference of those two energies should be gained. When electron jumping from higher to lower, that means energy should be decreased. So the decreased energy is in the form of energy. It loses energy. So loses energy. Lower to higher, higher to lower. Later I am going to explain those accelerated states. Please wait. Okay, this is very, very important. This rule, so that delta E is equal to E2 minus E1, delta E is equal to H nu. So we calculate, I am going to calculate nu is equal to delta E by H. Delta E is nothing but that much, therefore nu. This is called as Bohr's frequency rule. Bohr's frequency rule. Okay, next one. Next and very, 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 very important rule, that is very, very important. So is it clear? Both frequency rule, very, very important. Next important point, that is sixth point. What is that? Bohr allowed only those orbits whose angular momentum is calculated by using formula m into v. M into v is the momentum into r, radius, is called as angular momentum. Angular momentum is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi n. So is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. That means all those orbits are not allowed by Bohr. For example, see here. This is the nucleus of atom. These are the different orbits. All these orbits may or may not be possible. Only those orbits whose angular momentum, that means this is the distance between the nucleus to the center of the orbit, the outermost orbit. This is the r. So now this is the electron. Electron has certain mass m. We're moving with a velocity v. So mass into velocity into this radius. This is called as mvr, which is called as angular momentum. This angular momentum value should be an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Integral multiple of h by 2 pi. This is called as Bohr's quantum condition. This is called as Bohr's quantum condition. That means angular momentum of an orbit is quantized to a fixed value. Already the quantized term is explained in Planck's quantum theory. Any certain value is fixed to a certain fixed any certain quantity is fixed to a certain value, that is called as quantization. Any value, any certain quantity, any property is fixed to a certain value is called as quantization. Here, angular momentum is fixed to h by 2 pi n. So 1 h by 2 pi, 2 h by 2 pi, 3 h by 2 pi. It is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi n. It is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. So that is why this value, angular momentum value, is quantized to a certain value. So quantization means fixed to a certain value. That value is h by 2 pi n. That value is h by 2 pi. Therefore, finally, only those orbits whose angular momentum is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi are allowed by Bohr. All those orbits, other orbits are cancelled, not accepted. Therefore, MVR is equal to N h by 2 pi n, which is equal to N h cross. Here, h cross is equal to h by 2 pi n. It is another term, that's enough, h cross. H cross is nothing but h by 2 pi. This is called as Bohr's quantum condition. Angular momentum of an electron is quantized to h by 2 pi. It is n h by 2 pi. Here n is the number, n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. These are nothing but orbits. So for first orbit, it is MVR is equal to h by 2 pi. For second orbit, MVR is equal to 2h by 2 pi. Third orbit, 3h by 3 pi. Only those orbits are allowed, otherwise the remaining orbits, that means between 1 and 2 orbits, other orbits may also exist. Those are not accepted by this Bohr theory, this Bohr concept. So these are very, very important towards your Bohr's atomic model. These are the postulates of Bohr's atomic theory. So see here once again. So every atom, there is an atom. It has nucleus. Total positive charge is concentrated at the nucleus. Electrons are revolved around the nucleus in a closed circular path. Those circular paths are introduced by Bohr. When electron revolves around that nucleus in a closed circular path, it neither loses energy nor gains energy. That means its energy is constant. That means these orbits are considered as stationary orbits. Energy is constant. Stationary orbits. Stationary orbits are introduced by this Bohr. Next, when electron revolves in that particular orbit, its centripetal force is equal to centrifugal force. That's no doubt. That should be maintained. Otherwise, the electron is not revolving in that particular orbit. Next point, when electron jumps from lower orbit to higher orbit, it gains energy. Or higher orbit to lower orbit, it loses energy. That gaining energy or losing energy should be the difference of those two energies and orbits energy. That is E2 minus P1. That is delta E is equal to E2 minus P1. We know delta E is equal to h nu. That is plus Planck's quantum theory. So therefore, from that, both frequency rule is derived. Next, and most important, that is only those orbits are allowed. Only those orbits are allowed by Bohr whose angular momentum, that is MVR, is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. So these are some conditions. Those are the postulates given by Bohr. By using these postulates, he can derive radius of orbits, energy of the orbits, and exploit different spectra having single electron. That is hydrogen spectra, some other spectra having single electron are clearly explained by this Bohr. So this is the development. No other theories explain at least any spectrum having a single electron. But Bohr explains single electron system. Single electron. So that means it is something better than that previous concept. Something better than previous cases. So that's why before going to explain that different spectra, first of all we are going to derive. So what is the radius of the orbit? How much is the energy of the orbit? So how to calculate all these values? So first of all we are going to discuss the radius and energy of those orbits. Okay. So these are the postulates. See. So now our topic is radius of orbital. radius of orbit. So indicated with R, let it be radius of nth orbit. Radius of nth orbit. How to derive radius of nth orbit? Radius of nth orbit is equal to formula, that is n square h square by 4 pi square z e square m k. This is the formula. I am going to derive this formula right now. Radius of nth orbit is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square z e square m k. So how to derive that equation? How to derive that equation? Let us consider an orbit. See here, this is the nucleus. This is the orbit where electron is going to revolve. This is the orbit where electron is going to revolve. Let this one the electron. This is the electron having mass, let it be m, moving with a velocity v in this direction. Electron is revolved in this direction. Okay. Now, let the atomic number of this atom is Z. The total charge of that nucleus is Ze. Z is the atomic number. Ze is the total charge of that nucleus. Now, the distance between the center of the nucleus to the electron, this is the distance. This is nothing but radius. That is the radius of nth orbit. Let it be nth orbit. Either it is one, the first, or second, third, whatever it may be, that is the nth orbit. Radius of nth orbit. Now, there exist two types of forces. That means, so this is the electron having negative charge. This is the nucleus having positive charge. There is an attractive force towards this nucleus. It is called as centrifugal force, Coulombic force. Now, in tangential direction, there is an attractive force. Here is a tangential direction. This is a centripetal force. Centripetal force. So no doubt this centripetal force is equal to centrifugal force. Otherwise, the electron is not revolving in that particular orbit. In that particular orbit. Let us take an example here. Let us take just a minute, my dear boys. See here. Just a minute. I'm going to describe the electron revolution here by taking some experiments. See here. Let's see here. Let this one, this cap, let it be electron. Now, this is the radiation, this thread taken as radiation. Now, this electron, now my fingers are taken as nucleus of that atom. This is the nucleus of that atom. So, this is the nucleus, this is the electron. So, between this electron and this nucleus, there is an attractive force, and also there is an attractive. See here. So, electron is revolved. Okay. If this electron is revolved, automatically there is an attractive force between this nucleus and this electron, and also there is a tangential force of attraction is there. So see here where this tangential force of attraction is available. So now I'm going to release my force towards nucleus force. It is moving like this. It is moving like this. This is the tangential force. So that means this force is released that is moving like this. That means everywhere that type of force is exists here. And this force should be balanced. Then only the electron is revolving in a closed circular path. That is why the centripetal force should be equal to centrifugal force. Okay, the centripetal force should be equal to centrifugal force. No doubt at all. See here. This is the centrifugal force. Just here. It is a centrifugal force. This is centripetal force. Centripetal force. This should be balanced, otherwise the electron is not revolving like that. Already I described this. So no doubt these two forces are automatically balanced. If anything is over, automatically for centripetal force is over, now electron fell into nucleus. If centrifugal force is there, automatically the electron moving like the tangential direction, not towards this circular path. So no doubt these two should be equalized. Now I am going to equalize these two electrons. See here. So centripetal force, it is nothing but Coulombic force of attraction. Attraction, which is calculated like this: K into Q1 Q2 by R square. K into Q1 Q2 by R square. Q1 is the charge of one particle and Q2 is the charge of another particle. The R is the distance between them. R is the distance between them. Therefore, centripetal force is equal to Coulombic force. Coulombic force of attraction. Centripetal force is equal to K into Q1 charge. It is Z into E. Q2 it is its charge into E. The distance, radius of nth orbital whole square. Here K is nothing but a constant. K is nothing but constant. Here K is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. That epsilon naught is the permittivity. Permittivity of the free space. So its value is taken as 9 into 10 power 9. Already previous classes I already explained that one. So 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, that is 9 into 10 power 9. Okay. Z is the atomic number. Now it is equal to K into Z E square by R n whole square. Rn whole square. This is a centripetal force. Now this centrifugal force is equal to mv square by R. I am not going to derive this one. Mv square by R. Mv square by Rn. So now these two should be balanced. So equalize these two equations. This is the one. This is second one. So these two should be balanced. That is why equalize these two. Therefore, centripetal force is equal to centrifugal force. Centripetal force is K into Z E square by radius of nth orbit whole square, which is equal to centrifugal force mv square by R square. Mv square by R. Mv square by R. It is not R square, it is just R. So by cancelling these two, therefore from that mv square. So v square is equal to K into Z E square by m into radius of nth orbital. Radius of nth orbit. So this is v square. From both quantum condition, we know that mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi n. R is nothing but radius of nth orbit. From this, v is equal to nh by 2 pi mr. 2 pi mr. But we want v square. That implies v square is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square m square radius of nth whole square. Now substitute this v square value here. Substitute that v square value here. Now that is n square h square by 4 pi square m square r power n 2 is equal to K into Z E square by m r power Rn. Once again, this Rn gets cancelled. Now I want to calculate radius of nth orbit. So this one I am going to calculate it. Rn is equal to, come this side, n square h is cross multiplication by 4 pi square m and m gets cancelled. 4 pi square m z square k. M z square k. So this is the radius of nth orbital. These two are equivalent. Radius of nth orbit is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square z e square m k. By substituting the values, so n is the orbit number, h is a Planck constant, h is equal to 6.625 into 10 power minus 34 joule second. Pi is equal to 3.14. M, mass of electron, 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kg. Z, atomic number. E, charge of the electron, 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. K, the K is equal to 9 into 10 power 9. By substituting all these constant values, finally we will get radius of nth orbit is equal to 0.529 into, so this is variable, and this 0.529 into n square by z angstroms, and this is the radius of nth orbit, and this is the radius of nth orbit, so that is n square by z, and 0.529 into n square by z, so radius of nth orbit. Okay, so for hydrogen atom, see here. So please derive yourself in your notebook after completion of this chapter, this class. I will send the notes. See here. So that is angstroms. Therefore, radius of nth orbit is equal to 0.529 into n square by z angstroms. That is equal to 52.9 into 52.9 into n square by z picometers, and in terms of picometers. Next, this 0.529 is nothing but the radius of hydrogen atom, and that is taken as R naught. Radius of nth orbit is equal to R naught into n square by z. R naught into n square by z. Here R naught is equal to radius of hydrogen atom. Radius of hydrogen. So R is equal to R naught into n square by z. That means the radius is directly proportional to orbit number and inversely proportional to atomic number. Therefore, R1 by R2 is equal to N1 square by N2 square into Z2 by Z1. It is the comparative calculation part. Radius of nth orbit, that is R1 by R2 is equal to N1 square by N2 square into Z2 by Z1. Radius is directly proportional to N square and inversely proportional to atomic number Z. Okay, so these are radius. See here. So these are different formulae used to calculate here. Okay, so R naught is equal to 0.529 angstroms, and R naught is equal to 0.529 angstroms, which is radius of hydrogen atom. Which is called as Bohr's radius. Which is also called as Bohr's radius. So it is radius of nth orbit. Finally, radius of nth orbit is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square z e square m into k. It is the general formula. Radius is directly proportional to n square, inversely proportional to z. All other values are constants. So this is radius derivation. So for next one, I am going to discuss energy of the orbital. So which orbit has which energy? Energy of the orbit. Next topic is energy of the orbit. Energy of nth orbit, which is equal to En ra, which is equal to minus 2 pi square z square e power 4 m k square by n square h square. Energy of nth orbit is equal to minus 2 pi square z square e power 4 m k square by n square h square. See here once again, two constant, pi constant, z is variable, charge of the electron constant, mass of the electron constant, k value constant, h value constant. Once again, energy of the nth orbit is directly proportional to n square, z square. So directly proportional to z square and inversely proportional to n square. And inversely proportional to n square. So now how to derive this equation? How to derive this equation? So this is energy of nth orbit, nothing but total energy. Nothing but total energy. So whenever a total energy is used for anything, total, if you want to derive total energy is the summation of potential energy and kinetic energy. Total energy is the summation of potential energy and kinetic energy. Now I am going to calculate how much is the total potential energy and how much is the kinetic energy. So after calculating these two values, I am going to add these two values, that gives total energy. So first of all, I am going to calculate potential energy and then kinetic energy. So potential energy plus the kinetic energy equals total energy, that is energy of nth orbit. So see here. When an electron is revolving around the nucleus, total energy TE is equal to sum of the potential energy and kinetic energy. Energy of nth orbit. So our target, that is nothing but energy of nth orbit, En is equal to total energy, nothing but potential energy plus kinetic energy. So potential energy PE is equal to, it is the integral of Coulombic force of attraction. Coulombic force into dr. Coulombic force into dr. That Coulombic force already I calculated that K into Ze square by r square into dr. Ze square by r square into dr, which is equal to minus K into Ze square by r. Minus K into Ze square by r. This is potential energy. Now, kinetic energy, Ke is equal to, we know that Ke is equal to half mv square. We know Ke is equal to half mv square, but mv square is equal to half into mv square, Kze square by r. Kze square by r. This is kinetic energy. mv square is equal to Kze square by r. That is from the previous knowledge. That is the radius derivation. That is the available energy. mv square is equal to Kze square by r. Potential energy, kinetic energy, here we are going to calculate. So therefore, total energy is equal to, total energy is equal to sum of these two values. That is potential energy. That is minus Kze square by r plus 1 by 2 Kze square by r. So that is equal to minus 1 by 2 Kze square by r. So here Kze square by r I am going to common. Kze square by r, that is minus 1 plus 1 by 2, that is equal to minus 1 by 2 Kze square by r. Minus 1 by 2 Kze square by r. Therefore, it is total energy. It is total energy. Substitute radius of nth orbit. Already we know the radius of nth orbit formula, but radius of nth orbit is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square Ze square m into Kh. Substitute that value here. Substitute that value here. Therefore, total energy is equal to minus 1 by 2 K Ze square and radius of nth orbital, that is n square h square into 4 pi square z e square m k. Z e square m k. Now, is there any cancellation? Okay, this 2 is get cancelled here too. That's enough. Now, therefore, total energy is equal to minus 2 pi square z into z square e square into e square e power 4 m k into k square by n square h square. N square h square. This is total energy formula, which is also taken as energy of nth orbit. Energy of nth orbit. Very, very important. This total energy is directly proportional to z square and inversely proportional to n square. All other values are constant. All other values are constant. Therefore, E1 by E2 is equal to Z1 square by Z2 square into N2 square by N1 square and N2 square by N1 square. Okay, by substituting all these values, this that is energy of nth orbit is equal to that means pi value 3.14 E value 31.60 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, mass of the electron. That means all these values are I'm going to substitute. That gives minus 2.18 into 10 power minus 19 n square z square by n square joule per atom. This is the value, please remember. Energy of nth orbital. This is energy of both orbitals. It is energy of both orbits that is taken as E1, that is first orbit, that is En is equal to E1, that is minus E1 into Z square by N square, and E1 into Z square by N square. So, clear? Something is lost there. See here. This is, let this one as E1 and energy of first orbit for hydrogen atom. And for hydrogen atom, Z is equal to 1, first orbit N is equal to 1. So therefore, minus 2.18 into 10 power minus 19. Therefore, energy of nth orbit is equal to E1 into Z square by N square. And here E1 is the energy of first orbit of hydrogen atom. Energy of first orbit of hydrogen atom. So for our convention, there is minus N. So these are the values of both total energy situation, total energy conditions. Here, see here, potential energy is equal to minus K into Z square by Rn. Kinetic energy is equal to 1 by 2 Ke into Z square. So K into Z square by R, the value is taken as minus PEN. Therefore, Ke is equal to minus 1 by 2 PEN. It is the relation between Ke and PEN. Ke is equal to minus 1 by 2 PEN. Next, see here. Total energy is equal to minus 1 by 2, this value, KZE square by Rn. KZE square. So this minus and this KZE square by R. So this minus and KZE square by R is nothing but potential energy. Therefore, total energy is equal to 1 by 2 potential energy. Total energy is equal to 1 by 2 potential energy. So these are very, very important. Total energy is equal to 1 by 2 potential energy. Next, kinetic energy is equal to minus 1 by 2 PEN. Kinetic energy is equal to minus 1 by 2 PEN. That implies PE is equal to minus 2 KEN. PE is equal to minus 2 KE. That is the ratio between potential energy and kinetic energy. Minus 2 KE. Next, TE is equal to 1 by 2 PE. Next, TE is equal to minus, this value is taken as KE. Minus KE. TE is equal to minus KE. These are the different relations between total energy, kinetic energy, total energy, potential energy, total energy, kinetic energy and potential energy. These are the different relations. Finally, so what is that energy of nth orbit? Energy of nth orbit is equal to minus 2 pi square e power 4 m. So minus 2 pi square e power 4 m. That is k square. Just a minute, the formula. K square by pi square, z square also there. Minus 2 pi square e power 4 m k square z square by n square h square. N square h square. If n is equal to infinity, therefore energy is equal to 0. If n is equal to infinity, energy is equal to 0, no doubt. That means energy is equal to 0 means n is equal to infinity means now electron is free from the atom. Electron is free from the atom. That means this is the nucleus, first orbit, second orbit, third orbit. That means it should be the infinity orbital. That means this electron is not influenced by this nucleus. Now this electron is taken as free electron. That electron is taken as free electron. That free electron has more energy. That energy of free electron has more energy. Therefore, energy of free electron, it should be greater than energy of electron in atom. Energy of free electron should be greater than that of energy of electron in atom, because as n value increases, energy decreases, but negative value, it is negative value. Negative value decrease means energy is increased. As negative value decrease means energy is increased, therefore E is increased. As n value increases, E value increases. As n value increases, radius also increases, because radius is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square z e square mn. So radius is directly proportional to n. So energy is here actually inversely proportional to, but it is negative value. That means directly proportional. Therefore, as n value increases, energy of the orbit, radius of the orbit, both are increased. Both are increased. That negative indicates the increased value. Because n is in denominator, that is going to increase the value. Therefore, that is the negative value, but energy never goes to negative value. Negative energies are available. Now I am going to calculate energy of different orbits. Energy of different orbits. So in short, energy of nth orbit is equal to minus 13.6 into z square by n square electron volt per atom. So frequently generally used formula this one. Generally used formula, that is minus 13.6. After substituting all those values in electron volts, so minus 13.6 into z square by n square electron volt per atom. Now n is equal to 1. That is for first orbital. For first orbit, energy of first orbit is equal to. So for hydrogen atom, and I am going to calculate for a hydrogen atom, Z automatically equal to 1. And Z automatically equal to 1. So therefore n is equal to 1. Therefore it is minus 13.6 electron volt. Now n is equal to 2. Energy of second orbital, E2. So minus 13.6 by 2 square, that is 4. That is equal to minus 3 times 3.12 means 1, 3.4. And electron volt per atom. And electron volt per atom. Next, n is equal to 3 means energy of third orbited, that is minus 13.6 by 9. 3 square, 9, which is equal to minus 1.9 means 46, 1.51 electron volts per atom. These are the different energy values for different orbits. Now I am going to calculate E2 minus E1 and E2 minus E1. So see here, am I correct? This is 13.6 by 9. How much? 13.6 by 9. How much? Please give me the answer. 13.6 by 9. How much is the answer? 13.6 exact. I want to calculate exact value. 1.51. Am I correct? Okay, thank you. Now, this is the nucleus of the atom. First orbit, second orbit, third orbit, fourth orbit. Here it is. N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. For this, so like this. It is first orbit, second orbit, third orbit, fourth orbit. N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. For this, first orbit, 13.6 is the electron volt. For second orbit, minus 3.4. For third orbit, minus 1.51. Now, what is the difference between these two? Difference between these two means higher value minus lower value. That is, how much is the value? So 13.6 minus 3.4. That is equal to 10.2. 10.2 electron volts is the difference. Between these two and between those two, that is 3.4 minus 1.51. So 4, 1 and 9, 13, 13, 5 and 13, 5, 13, 5 and 3, 2 and 8. So 2, 1, 1.89. 1.89. That means the difference value as we are moving upward direction, the difference value decreases. Difference of energy, that is delta E value, decreases. Difference of those values gradually decreases. These are the very important. As n value increases, energy value increases. But difference of adjacent orbits, gradually decreases. Because of that, we are going to draw orbits like this. It is first orbit, n is equal to 1. It is second orbit, n is equal to 2. This is third orbit, n is equal to 3. It is fourth orbit, n is equal to 4. See here, it is a difference, large distance. Less, something less, something less. So, something less. That means, as n value increases, difference of adjacent orbits energy values decreases. Delta E of adjacent values decreases. Energy of nth orbit increases as n value increases. But difference of adjacent values gradually decreases. Difference of adjacent values gradually decreases. So this is a way to explain how the difference values are there. Okay. Next, so E2 minus E1. This is the difference. E3 minus E1. This is the difference. E4 minus E1. This is the difference. These values are increased. These values are increased, but adjacent values are decreased. So in objective cases, everything is important. Adjacent values decreases. So first orbit to any higher orbit, as n value increases, the difference value increases. First orbit to n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, n is equal to 4. The energy values, difference energy values are increased, but adjacent values are decreased. Adjacent values are decreased. So these are the different energy terms. Different energy terms. So this is energy of nth orbit and different relations. And now I am going to calculate some relations, some calculation purposes. Velocity of electron. Now electron is revolving around the nucleus in a closed circular orbit with a certain velocity. How to measure the velocity of the electron? How to measure the velocity of the electron? Now our topic is velocity of the electron. That is V in nth orbital. Velocity. We know mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. From that, velocity v is equal to nh by 2 pi m rn. Substitute r value and radius of nth orbit, that is nh by 2 pi m n square h square by 4 pi square z e square m into k. M into k. Substitute that value. After final, therefore v is equal to, it gets cancelled 2 times. Sorry. Okay, 2 into 2. It is z and it is z. This z. Finally, we get n cancel, n h and h cancel. So finally, we get, after substituting all those values, 2 pi z e square k by n h n. It is the velocity of nth orbit. Velocity of nth orbit. By substituting all those constant values, velocity of nth orbit is equal to 2.18 into, so z by n. Z by n into 10 power 8 centimeters per second. 10 power 8 centimeters. Please be mind, velocity of nth orbit is equal to 2.18 into 10 power 8 z by n centimeters per second. So v1 by v2 is equal to z1 by z2 into n2 by m11. It is a comparative study. E1 by. Now this 2.18 into 10 power 8, that is the radius of first orbit for hydrogen atom. So by taking these two values, Vn is equal to V0 into Z by n. And V0 is the velocity of first orbit in hydrogen atom. Because for hydrogen atom, Z is equal to 1, first orbit n is equal to 1. So for hydrogen atom, first orbit, the value is 2.18 into 10 power 8. That is taken as V0. So Vn is equal to V0 by V0 into Z by n. This is another way of expression, that velocity of electron. Velocity of electron. Okay, next part, that is time period. How to calculate time period? How much time is taken for revolution? Today all are derivative part. Tomorrow we are going to apply all these formulas for calculation purpose. Now it is the time period. It is the time taken for the revolution. Time end. We know time t is equal to distance by velocity. We know time t is equal to distance by velocity. So for complete revolution of one electron, it is the circumference of the orbit. How much distance is traveled by the electron for one complete revolution? That is the distance, that is 2 pi r n. Circumference with radius or radius of nth orbit. 2 pi r. Now velocity of nth orbit. Velocity of nth orbit. Therefore time period Tn. Time period for nth orbit is equal to 2 pi radius of nth orbit by velocity of nth orbit, that is nothing but V0 into Z by n, just in previous case, velocity of nth orbit. Okay, now which is equal to 2 pi radius of nth orbit is nothing but R0 into n by z. Sorry, n square by z. R0 into n square by z by V0 into z by n. Therefore, time period for nth orbit is equal to 2 pi R0 by V0 into n cube by z square. N cube by z square. N cube by z square, that much is seconds. Time is nothing but seconds. Therefore, T1 by T2 is equal to N1 cube by N2 cube into Z2 square by Z1 square. Z2 square by Z1 square. This is the time period. So these are the derivations already we derived previously. So this, all those values are substituted here. Finally, time period T1 by T2 So that means this is the final derivation conditions. Next one, frequency. That means how many revolutions per second an electron made in a orbit. Number of revolutions made by one electron. Made by electron in 1 second is called as number of revolutions, which is called as orbital frequency. Orbital frequency indicated with the letter mu. Orbital, that is, or number of revolutions per second. Number of revolutions per second, which is nothing but orbital frequency. Okay, so number of revolutions per second, that is, mu is inversely proportional to Tn. Number of revolutions per 1 second, that is the T already we derived it. So T, so therefore mu is equal to V by 2 pi Rn. V by 2 pi Rn. That means by substituting all those values, mu is equal to number of revolutions per second, 6.66 into 10 power 15 into Z square by N cube. Z square by N cube per second, that is the second inverse is the unit. Per second, second inverse is the unit. 6.66 into 10 power 15, substituting all those values, Z square by N cube. Therefore, frequency 1 by frequency 2 is equal to Z1 square by Z2 square into N2 cube by N1 cube. N2 cube by N1 cube. These are orbital frequency. That is the number of revolutions made by an electron in an orbit per 1 second. Per 1 second, that is number of revolutions. So that is by like this. Like this. These are very, very important. Okay. Next one. I think it should be the last one. That is ionization potential. What is the meaning of ionization potential? That is the atom. Here is an atom. Here is an electron revolving around the nucleus. That is the energy required to remove the electron from this outermost orbit into an infinite distance. Into an infinite distance. Okay. So that means infinite distance. That is the radius of nth orbit. That is infinity orbit. Radius of infinity orbit. Therefore, for a hydrogen atom, okay, ionization potential is equal to, so energy of first orbit by n square. Energy of first orbit by n square. For hydrogen like ions, ionization potential is equal to E1 into Z square by n square. Z square by n square. So that is equal to 13.6 into Z square by n square electron volt. This is ionization potential for any single electron system. So any single electron system. So that is ionization energy. So these are very, very important. Okay. So try to by heart or try